when you are appointing, it's piki ponki. Wewe ni beshte yangu, so we need to have a balloon. What is remaining? Oh, can you handle health? Umefanya nini shule? Ulifanya nini? Teaching. You can do well in health. Wewe you'll do health.
Hey, and welcome to Fanya Mambo Africa. Super excited and elated for this particular episode. One, because I have one of the best creatives in this country. One person who has a satirical comedy for everything that happens in Kenya. I mean, something will happen at night, and that night he shares a video. So you wonder, kwani, has he lived in the future, in the past? Like, very interesting. I have none other than the man himself, Njugush.
Thank you so much. Hey.
What's up?
Ikai ni mimi.
Hey.
Mpaka mtu ana feel fit. Niko salama? Yes, nimekuja tufanye mambo.
Good to I see what you did. Itabidi nikairada about these things now. How are you?
Niko salama, Mungu anasaidia. Kijana mpole, kijana ana mambo mingi, ni urembo. Hello.
Wow.
Uko salama?
Mimi niko salama.
Asante sana. Asante kwa chai. Kula samosa. Unajua sio kwingi unaendaga unapewa hizo. Unawekeago maji hivyo alafu unaambiwa.
Welcome.
Iko hapa. Hufai kukunywa, kumbe ni prop. But hapa kwanza nimekula. Shukran sana. Thank you so much.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Sasa on this particular show, we try use a lot of English and Swahili a bit because of our audience. We have a lot of...
I hope I will be able. My English is small.
Yours is huge. We see what you do.
It's small now. Hey.
They understand the small.
Now you wait.
Now you wait, he said.
It's more, my English is more as some truth to some people.
Yeah. Where? This Dini, I was here.
Are you the some people?
No, me, I'm just...
But you are good.
Who are these some people?
I don't know. But there are some people with no or little truth in them.
Okay.
Yes.
In this country, am I outside?
No, in this country.
Allah. Okay. Good to have you on set.
Sana, thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
Okay. We start here. You know, every time something happens in this country, Njugush will be the first one for sure to have a skit. Bro, do you sleep expecting what will happen tomorrow? Are you a prophet in a way?
They say sana ni kioo cha jamii. Like,
yes.
What we do in terms of the art reflects what's happening in the society. So I think basically that's what it is. Like, you have 101 scenarios that you'd replicate or you'd compare to a particular incident or a particular happening currently in the nation or otherwise. Yeah, so that's why a lot of scenarios, a lot of you draw a lot of similarities in African countries in what a politician, for example, is portrayed to be, in what a pastor is portrayed to be in the society, and so on and so forth, and in what a mother is. Like, for example, when we have Mother's Day, you see everyone we can relate when a mother picks a slippers. So there's a depiction, there's what it is what it is. So I think for me it comes from that particular, because it's already 50% work has been done for you. Yeah, so it's for you to bring it home. And also back in college I did journalism, and I think politics was one of my interests, and current affairs, so to speak. So I think it comes from that.
But how is it that for every scenario you have a video ready? Like, how many videos do you shoot just waiting to...
One is because I get what you mean. One is because I've done, like, 50% of those videos are videos I did kitambo. So they are sort of videos I already did, and they fit the situation. These people are the same. Whatever is happening in this country is the same. It will always come back to the same thing. We know they are selfish, so it's the same thing. We know they'll tell a lie, it's the same thing. So there is that. So 50%, I'm lucky to have been around for a while in terms of creating. So you find I've already created something, and even if I tried, I wouldn't create as best as I did then. So there is that advantage of I've been there, I've done a little more videos, but also the fact that an idea, even before, like, you could, I can tell what could happen. And everyone could tell. Like, for example, oh, sorry, that's signal lost.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm
La,
really
la,
sorry.
la, la,
Let
la.
me,
Content creators.
not content creators. It's people who don't know town.
Okay.
So I come from Roiro, so you
Welcome
understand.
to town.
So I had to use the pin. Now, back to it. I think you can already tell what's happening with these guys. We know. Unaambiwa watafanya kazi. You know they won't work. They won't do anything. You know. So I think it stems from, you can tell, they're very predictable. You can already tell what's going to happen. So I think there is that too. I've been around, so I have the advantage of having a little more videos. So I always remember there's a video I did about ABCD. It fits this scenario. And also when it comes to creating now, it's easier. It's easier. You just say it.
No, when you say it's easier, you know, for most people, they don't understand. Like, let me give a scenario that is most recent. There was a promise of 1 million chapatis.
Now it's easier because you're on the job. What I do is create. So the same way, if you'd wake up a teacher, a high school teacher, for example, teaching business studies, they teach even without looking at the book, at the textbook. So it's in them. It's what they do on a daily. I think on a daily. So when it comes to putting scenarios together, it's very easy. You've given me A and C, so I only need to look for B. Yeah.
Okay. Something that's also interesting is that your satire is not very direct. What does it take to do? Because we have other comedians, of course, who do it, but it's rather direct. But yours, sometimes you have to think and, okay, what did you mean?
Back in school, in high school, I think we did set books. And the set books were talking about countries that existed. Like we had the Mai Waziri wa Marathi, we had Kifo Kisimani, Mtemi Bokono akona kisima. He has a well where only his few choir masters drink from. And if you look at today is what's happening, we have Mtemi Bokono, and there are some people who are going to kneel for to the Mtemi for him to give them whatever it is, be it maendeleo, be it roads. You wonder, right now we have teachers, letters being given in, whoever shouts loudest. So we have Mutemi Bokono. So stemming from such, you are able to, and it was so, when you really think about it, you think it's a story about a Mutemi. But when you look closer, it's what is happening right now. You look at something like Chege and Wayaki, a story that was told between culture and Christianity, where they, so it's I think Fasihi, it's really something really interesting in terms of, it's sort of, you're playing with words, and when you get to think about it, you're like, what? And it's, you see it in songs, you see it in poems, you see it in, for the guys who rap, it's all there. We're talking about this country, we're talking about this particular person who is doing ABCD, Mae Waziri wa Marathi. So we I think it's beautiful. I think language it's beautiful. That's one. Two, in school, they taught us about media law and ethics. They taught us about being taken to court, libel, I think it was called libel, and how to avoid such. So no one would come and say you're talking about me. When I say Mutemi must go, me, I'm talking about Mutemi. And the reason why I'm saying Mutemi must go is because ABCD. Hatujakuwa tukikunywa maji, only the few. So what happens to those wenye sahi wanakunywa maji, but in the near future, they are not in terms with the Mutemi of the day. Hawatakunywa maji. So I think it's a way of telling a story without telling a story. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
And once you know, you're like, God.
Which
I think it's a really beautiful way of, because direct, everyone is talking direct. When you get in that taxi, when you go to that hotel, everyone is talking direct. Na watu kwani wanatuona sisi kama nini yao? Yeah? So you can't say kama nini yao. So you'll find a way of saying the same. We are talking the same thing. Like, for example, right now, every Kenyan, other than those who are benefiting, of course, that's why wanaongea lugha different, other than those who are benefiting in one way or the other, but we are talking the same language. So even if I hid that language, however I'd hid it, I think you'd really tell what I'm talking about, because you're like, oh, where? And I think it's beautiful.
if you know, you know.
I think it's really quite something.
Super good. I mean, your content is amazing. The other question people would ask is, and I always see it in the comments, like, Njugush, are you not afraid?
Of?
They will come for you. I mean, they've come for other people. Them.
So I think first and foremost, I think it's why are we expressing ourselves? Why are you talking? Why are you saying whatever you're saying? I don't hate someone. I don't know them. Honestly speaking, I don't know them to a point of I don't want to hate on them. It's not hate, it's not incitement. I'm talking about when you go to the hospital. And if you looked, and the reason why I do it is if you go to my DMs, there are things I cannot handle. Every day you're getting guys, oh, I'm going through this. Can you do? It's a lot. Yet all those things can be sorted by these people who are, right now you're talking about adding themselves to some how many billions?
4.4.
Exactly. While people are going hungry with no food, with no medical. The medical pleas that I have in my DM, people are like, tulipeleka mtoto, cannot be treated. But yet you're going around telling people there is this universal health cover, which is actually covering less. Might cover a lot of people, but cover less. It's like now we are betting. So you just bring all your money, and now pray to God 6 of you don't get sick at the same time, because you can only take care of 2. Yeah. So when the people who are supposed to do these things, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. So what do you expect? So there is one, people are going through it. So it's either use the platform. Yes, they consume your content. They pay for your content in one way or the other. So the only best thing you can ever do is to stand up for them and to be able, because, and you've seen, and I'll give examples from us since whatever happened with the protest that happened last year, June 25th. Things are happening. People are saying this is not working. They either retract or they do ABCD. They find a way. Kwa nini hawangefanya even in the first place? It's because until you speak, because we come from a culture where we are not supposed to ask questions. Huyo ni mkubwa wako. But this wakubwa, mkubwa wako, they're not behaving as such. Yeah? Because you're seeing, maybe I don't know what I'm saying, but I think I could lead a country if this is what, like, make me understand why you take someone who has no experience in a particular place and put them in charge of, be it health, be it road. We know you. You are history in terms of books.
Yeah.
And we have people who are well-read. They know their thing. And when you are appointing, it's piki ponki. Wewe ni beshte yangu, so we need to have a what is remaining? Oh, can you handle health? Umefanya nini shule? Ulifanya nini? Teaching. You can do well in health. Wewe you'll do health. Like it's okay, it gets me worked up. But my point is, do what you're supposed to do. You're being paid more than, like, for example, right now it pains that doctors are out in the street. They are never paid. They are committing suicide. They are doing what they are supposed to do. Remember what happened during COVID? They are the forefront.
Yeah.
Sisi tukikufa. Some of them died for lack of PPEs.
Yeah.
And people took home millions of shillings for their families. And we are left, and that's why it pains me. And I feel like we need to talk about, because we're not talking about an individual. It's about a system. It's about institutions. This should work. As the executive, it should work.
Yeah.
When it comes to judiciary, it should work. And so on and so forth, as it's supposed to be. Because if anything, those people, they are being paid a lot of money. They are being paid a lot of money.
Yes.
When we're talking about our doctors, when talking about even our pilots, they are going to other international airlines and they're being given good money. Brain drain is happening. So what happens now to everyone else? So it's only a few who are benefiting. So the reason why I'm not afraid, because I don't intend to talk on. I'm talking about situations, whatever is happening, and people are like, and actually people, what happens with these things? The audience, they're the ones who ask for, talk about this, we're going through this, we took my family. So I'm talking also from a point of information. There are some things I wouldn't jump on them because I have no information, but we're talking about real things happen to real people. So I've been threatened, but mostly you find sort of they're happy to be talked about. So they're like, niliona ile UNESCO because we meet. Niliona hiyo ni kali. Sasa fanya ingine. I'm like, yeah. So and it's because I have no ill whatever. I'm not
Intentions.
like, exactly. I'm just talking about fanyeni hii. This is what should happen. There is no explanation as to why you go to a hospital and you're sent away with no drugs. Basi nilienda kufanya nini? Kuonwa. I just came here for the doctor to see me, and now tell me you're going to buy sijui whatever medicine, and now someone on the other side is in biashara. They have a chemist on the other side of the hospital because the government has not provided drugs. So I'm taking advantage and putting up a chemist on the other side, a pharmacy on the other side of the hospital. So I'm not afraid because freely given, freely give. Freely given, freely lend, I think. So it's a free, if I'm able to talk about some, and you've seen over the time the kind of things that happen when we share online. Like, for example, there's that baby, she's due to go to India. She had a problem that SHA could not cover.
Yeah.
Yet it's working. And people came through, someone came through, or maybe government, because they really come through when such things go viral, and that is being worked on. So if we can be able to use online and the digital platform for what it is, to be able to kufikisha that information faster, I think it's the best. When people, before last year, public participation was not a thing. Right now, it's a must you do public participation, and people are participating now. Wanasema hatutaki nonsense. Because kitambo it was, no one is coming for the public participation, other the people who are paid to be there. Juu wewe unafanya kwa ofisi ya MP, so you must be there. So other than that, and they'll pass these minutes, these people attended, and tukapitisha. But now, people are asking questions. Is that the best deal we could get? Remember what happened with Adani? Walikuwa wamepiga, hakuna kitu kama hiyo. Mpaka watu wa KEA wakagoma in the airport. What happened? Waka nini? Najua itarudishwa tu. But ideally is, if people kept talking, I think we'd be in a far much better place, because currently, watu sio wajinga, and people are seeing. So you can come and lie, but we are seeing. You know, the difference, and I think this is the mistake I think people are making, is that this is a new world. In terms of the constitution, we have a new constitution, which gives freedom of speech. Hata nikitaka kusema leo,
Utasema.
Sarah must go, you will go. Nasema, as long as it's not infringing on your rights, I have the right to say that. So even if you brought sijui who to say, you know, this is not that time. Unfortunately, there was a time where kulikuwa na, unajua ilikuwa inatoka pale, and you cannot say anything about that. And unasema hivi, no, this is a new constitution. This is a new constitution. 2, we have internet. Internet makes it easier for us to know what's going on. Video cut a trend. Oh, that's what they're saying. Like, for example, there's a video, a very beautiful video of a nominated senator and an MP. Very beautiful. I hope you've seen it, going around saying they're going to do things to you. It's so beautiful. Once it gets, ordinarily, if we didn't have social media, that couldn't have gone. You wouldn't know them for who they are, because now we know them for who they are, na hatuwaogopi. That's 2. 3, people are, in terms of education, we are way better than we used to be. Hizo enzi wanafikiria wako. So people understand. I pay taxes, this should happen. I'm not begging. Like, people understand, we should not come to beg for maendeleo. That's why we have all those levels of government. We have the national government, we have the county government. Kila mtu afanya kazi yake. So unakuja kujenga soko ya nini? Si wacha county government ifanye hivyo. Health is a devolved function of the county. Wacha washikilie, au wana fail. So everyone, kila mtu anakimbizana na basari. Huyu anataka kupewa pesa ili abate the voter. So I think if all those work, because we have a very beautiful constitution, but then the problem is, watu wataki kufanya kazi. And now people know what should happen. That's why if it's a road, they'll go and ask, hii barabara ni yako. So sio kama kitambo ati it's for the national government. No. We have different whatever. Even Moram roads are being done by MC. We have different kind of roads done by different people. When we are talking about education, we should be able to take care of. When we are talking about how you spend our money, the other day, I think MCAs came together and decided they need their money, multiplied, I think, by 3 times because they are earning less than a
Governor.
yeah, they are comparing themselves. If president earns this and MP earns this, a governor is earning this, but we are earning this. If you'd ask me, everyone's salary should review down, because what happens, they act as if we are the one who told them, come,
Please
come
MP.
and be our MP. You are the one who came looking for the job. If I go somewhere in a panel, I applied for that job, I do my CV and everything, and I came looking for a job. I take what you give me. I don't start saying, but now, and now, these guys are so funny. You come asking for, if you don't want to work, and this is what I keep saying, if you don't want to work, go home. Because they act as if there are no other people to lead. That's why they keep shuffling themselves. Mmesema huyu si mzuri. Wacha aende sports. Juu ya mchezo.
Piki.
You get, like, make me understand, if it didn't work here and here, how is it going to work there?
By the way, let me ask you now that you've brought that out. The president the other day, just I think a week or 2 weeks ago, said that former CS who's now been fired, JB Muturi, was very incompetent as an AG. But then he appointed him as a CS, public
Speaks
service.
a lot about him as a president. He speaks volumes.
I'm done with my question. You answered already.
Yeah, it speaks volumes when you're a coach, you take your best players and you put them on the field. If someone is not working, anakuja anakaa bench, unapanda. You, the best. If you have Messi, you know how what's the time he plays. You know the best position. So as a coach, you're failing. Unatoa mtu kipa, unamrudisha huku, unatoa huku, unamwambia akachezee timu nyingine, ati ameenda kuwa ambassador. I don't blame him. Everyone has their own kind of ruling and their own kind of plan. Maybe that's the plan. So you can't blame someone for having that
plan. Okay. So from our side now, we are not in government, but from where we sit, are we expecting too much of people, yet in our small ways we are not giving as much? Like today, if I call Njugush and then, I'm not saying it's the truth, but Njugush tells me, okay, this deal is worth $1 million. Okay, you have to give me 300 Gs for B2. So are we expecting too much of people, yet in our own small ways we are perpetuating these? Then now when it gets to leadership is when we see it.
Yes, we're expecting too much. We're expecting for young guys not to be killed and abducted. That's expecting too much.
Yeah, therefore.
We are expecting for mothers, when we go to the hospital, they get treated because they are paying for those universal whatever. That's expecting too much. We expect when you go to hospital, you find drugs. That is expecting too much. We expect when we're talking about things that are working, like for example, the education model funding for the universities, it was working, but you come and do your things. We expect it to work. It's not working. Again, we're expecting too much. We expect our roads to be done not right before elections, way before, so that we can also be able to reach, to make our produce reach the markets. That's expecting too much. We're expecting to be given fertilizer that's actually working. Na sio mawe. That's expecting too much. Si mchukue tu mawe ya fertilizer. It's true, we're expecting too much for our police officers to be treated in a human way. Sio kupelekwa huko nje. Huko sasa wanapigana. Baringo, people are dying every day. Shule haziendwi, shule ya mchana ya day sasa imekuwa boarding. Why? Is because of insecurity. That's expecting too much. Don't you think?
I think we're expecting too much, honestly.
As Kenyans, you need to lower your expectations. We're expecting people not to steal public money and to do their own things. When you hear a budget was done, they didn't follow the right procedures, they cannot account for there's a breakfast that was 4 million. I'd love to see that breakfast. Even if it's for a yaki naweza upikia na nusu.
You don't mind?
Yeah, that's expecting too much. It's expecting too much when we have, like for example, when you're a government official, the kind of motorcade, the kind of things at your disposal. Right now, it's choppers, left, right, and center. You're expecting too much for them to... Because if the shoe is pinching everyone, then all of us should be feeling the pinch.
But I have a choppers and MP, surely. It's just the...
Kenyans, we are expecting too much. So
right.
I think we lower expectations. And you Kenyans, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're being told, mukatwe mshahara for the housing levy. mkakubali, you are not doing what you are supposed to do. Mataxi zinaongezwa nyinyi kwani
Shift. Why?
I think also us, we are failing as Kenyans. We are not doing what you are supposed to do. Unaanza biashara, unakujua na watu kama sita, you need this, you need this. Do better as Kenyans.
Do better as Kenyans.
But in all honesty, I think it's common sense, because we just asking them to work. Sio, like, just work.
We pay you and facilitate
work.
Everything.
Just work. Unfortunately, there are some people who are working, but a large number of them wako tu. They don't want to work. Wanaenda mpaka you wonder who advises. Oh, but I know.
Tell us. Okay, just whisper. We're not saying much.
Once you start to think of who is the advisor, yeah, because a lot of people, and even this government, when they're coming in, and Kibaki did his thing and went. I'm talking about Kibaki because they were saying, unajua wakati wa Kibaki tunataka kurudi hapo. If you look at how he did things in terms of the guys he had, like for example, when you're talking about Justice, who was in charge of the docket, when you're talking about Michuki, what we did, when you're talking about, he might not be the best, but I'm talking because they are the ones who wanted to be like Kibaki. Then Juzi nasikia Murkomen. Me guys, Anyway, I don't want to get there, but my point is, if you look at the quality, you could be the clueless of individuals, but it tells a lot with who you choose. Again, when you're everything, in my language you say koigio teru, like you're the one who is saying nobody can tell you anything. Mtu moja, again my people say modomo tibogo, one person is not a buffalo. Like you can only do so much as a human being. Like you don't want to tell me health, unajua iko hivi, nini iko hivi. The reason why you do that, you must put your nose in every whatever, in every jar, is because what you've put there is not worth it. It's not, won't do anything. So you must
keep pushing.
Exactly, keep pushing. So I think, again, I'm not an expert. Actually, hata sijui nilijipata aje hapa, but I'm just saying what I think, because hapa mahali tumefika, I think, I'm just saying what I think as I'm seeing it. Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, but if you fail, you become an advisor. Okay. So tell me, how does that work? Like, nataka kuelewa, unajua pengine hatukusoma. I just want to understand how, if you fail here, you're better as an advisor.
It's a good retirement plan.
Then the guys who was, we're talking about opposition. Anyway, let's continue. There's a delegation that was sent to Sudan. Southern Sudan.
Which was led by Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
I'd want to know how people outside see us right now, because it's I know I don't know a lot, but at the same time,
you see a lot.
Actually, you don't have to know a lot. At this point, you don't have to know a lot to see a lot. But anyway, let's continue.
Okay. Very interesting. Of course, I knew that would come up. But from where you sit, now this speaking as an art, what would be expected of artists in the different spectrums? Because they say it's a reflection of society. So are you as artists doing your part enough, or should even artists, by the way, speak out? Because you see, there's a whole thing of fearing my check might go.
So, and it's actually I've lost a very big check, and it's okay. So things current where we are as a country, and that's why you find we ask ourselves, why is there corruption? Because people don't have money. So what do? These are golden chances I've been given, so I need to reciprocate. So I think as artists, we fear doing that, because one, we used to fear that because sitaki kufanya siasa, that's what people say, but this is not siasa. And I think up to now we have realized this siasa that hatutaki comes for everyone. Everyone is affected. Whether you like it or not, it will affect you. It's about governance. It's not about siasa. It's not about, me, I'm not talking about hii mrengo and ile mrengo, because not that siasa. What I'm saying is, this should work, this should work. Bottom line.
Yeah.
You cannot tell me saying young people should not be killed for speaking out is not right. Ati ungenyamaza. You get my point? I'm not saying huyu kijana asimame huyu aangushwe. What I'm saying is young people should not be killed for anything, leave alone expressing themselves. That's why we take them. See, these corrupt guys, they're always taken to court, the due process, they are then back again. They're campaigning, they get their seats, and they go on with their life. So I think in terms of art, we have started doing that, and especially with what happened from June 25th. If you're not in that mandamano, you're being called out, where to care. And I think that started also giving creators the power to speak. Because now, and that's what I've been trying to tell people, and I ask a client, I ask them, they're like, siasa. I'm like, I'm not talking about siasa, I'm talking about governance. Because what I'm doing, what I do. I'm not about mrengo, I'm about
Good governance.
hakuna dawa, what do you do? So if all these people you want to sell things to don't have any more because of the economy, they don't have power to buy, who are you going to sell to? They're like, exactly. So if the audience are actually asking you to speak out, ongelele hapa, this injustice, then that means you're safe. Because at the end of the day, is how you talk to your people. The reason why these clients are coming is because of how you talk to your people. It's the messaging, how you talk to your people. So all I say is keep it clean. Don't take money. Because now what happens is, like you've seen talk about during the time for Mandamano, people took money for you to be able to post this and tweet this. If you do that, you're compromised going forward. So I think as artists, it's a very powerful tool because no one is going to come for you. You're doing what you're supposed to do. If I were a unionist, let's say for example, niko kwa kani unacheka.
Okay.
Unacheka hivyo na hatuori. Now, huyo naye anaendaga na upepo. Now, hatetei watu. Anyway, if we go nilikuwa wapi? If I was in a particular, let's say for example, I'd say ni siasa. So as an artist, you have a duty. You have what you're given is freely given. The only thing you can do is to give back using that voice to be able to talk, and people will always appreciate. Even when it comes to your down, people will always have your back. Because at the end of the day, who is your king? Is it that the audience or the people who are coming to pay because of the audience? So I think ultimately, if you don't have the audience, these people are time yako. So as long as you keep it clean, I think iko sawa.
But is it true you guys are losing checks for speaking out?
But say pia kumbe kuna gava, kuna watu walikuwa wanaown shares huko. So akasema anatuvinya sana. But for actually I go to boardrooms and they're like, we wouldn't want our brand mixed up, of course, because of brand. That's wako hapo kufanya biashara, we understand. But we support what you do. Like we are like, speak out. As long as it's clean. Because mimi sijasema ni chafu. Sijasema mtoto wa huyu. Mimi nasema wewe unafaa ufanye hivi au ufanye. Easy. Also us as I think as human beings, as Kenyans, I think also tuko na mapungufu yetu.
Yeah.
Utaenda kwa highway uone mtu amechukua chupa na tupa nje ya dirisha. Na tuko sawa. Mumekaa tu hivi pale mbele junction, there's a problem. People start overlapping. We also have our own problems. But I think if whatever you do makes someone else lose life, I think now that crosses that the boundary for tuko na tabia, because we have the kids in school. If you ask a teacher, they had that kid who was huyu ni mpole, but this one with a little kiboko he'll be okay, but this one, so we have this one of I want to see him wherever he is at all the time. And then there's this of tunaweza rekebisha kidogo. But I think ideally is to keep talking, because ideally, do you know, if everything was working, we wouldn't be here. If I go to hospital, I'm treated, hata singekuwa, I wouldn't have a problem with being overtaxed.
So long as you're getting value for it.
If you're getting value, because now you're not getting value. Umelipia your universal health care, hiyo wanaita universal. Umeenda hosi, it cannot cater for, plus there are no drugs. Remember, they deducted you money to take care of this. Walikata housing levy for you to take care of this. You go home, nyumba yako imefungwa na ulitoa pesa ya housing. So si basi usikate, then I'll sort myself. I'll go to a private hospital. I'll live wherever I want, and do these other things because I have money. Now you take my money away and tell me I'm going to build a house. It's going to be affordable. And then you sell me same market value. Haijachana sana. So sasa ulichukua unijengee. What should happen is, because I'm being deducted, I should get it for free.
Yeah, because it was my money.
Hey, otherwise just let me stay with my money. I'll pay rent here. You get my... So sometimes they do things and you're like, what happens now? Now we are going and things are changing. Even when you look at what's happening in the US, things are changing. Who thought Trump could be the president? Trump is the president for the second time.
Yeah.
He went and came back.
And by the way, he's cut USAID funding in Kenya. What's your take on that? And how do you think that is going to affect our health sector mostly?
It's going to affect, but I think we have ourselves to blame largely because these people, they rely on donors, and then they take the money and give them funny names and they swindle the money. And the other day I had the CS for Treasury saying we should allow that corruption money to come back and be
Yeah.
Aki, if you are a Kenyan, just take a moment and breathe in and out 3 times every so often. Otherwise, utakufa. So, I think in terms of, and largely we really depend on donor funding because it really works. One, there's transparency. Whatever money was put on is what you get. So let's say, for example, we're talking about HIV and AIDS. These people will be taken care of. We're always going to have the support they need and everything in time. You remember that time we had a problem? I think it's the last regime where we had ARVs came. We had some HIV support materials at the port, but the government wanted to tax. You're like, then you should be doing, this is the work you should be doing.
It was freely given, actually.
You wonder. So I think, and that's what should happen if you ask me. I know it because anyway it has happened, but I think we need to take it as a lesson and start putting things into perspective as to how can we survive without ABCD. If they decided, because now we've seen it's possible, what will happen? Because some of these ninis have been there for ages. So you're like, it's always going to be there. And so the counties, now we have devolved whatever, the counties relax. You hear there's a machine that has been sent to a county, let's say, for example, Narok, let's say, for example, Kiambu, but it's always there because there's no one to operate. So it's gathering dust while it could have been saving the numbers that are coming all the way to Nairobi to be able to go there. And it's devolved. That's why it was devolved. Remember, we had doctors from Sijui which country. There were some doctors who came.
Actually, yes. Was it Cuba?
Cuban doctors. Yeah. What happened to that story? Yet we are not paying our doctors. Anyway. Yeah.
Sad by a lot. So now what's the place of, because you see, I fully understand where artists and creators are coming from, but what's the place of art and good governance, and why is it important for any nation?
One, it's because people listen, and when you look at when we are going towards the campaigns, they use a lot of art. They use a musician. You remember there was a song, I Am Unbogable. It was a massive hit. Remember what? It was an anthem. I think it's the last general election. Right before the last campaign they did, I think one was in Kasarani, if I'm not wrong, where Diamond flew in.
Yes.
The other one was Solomon Mkubwa. So we use art a lot. Why? Is because, and even if you remember the same campaign period, particular media houses were doing peace caravans, using musicians, using actors to be able to talk to people, because art connects to people. It's like when you're depressed, you want to listen to that song, you want to listen to someone talk, you want to watch that funny thing, you want to go and watch some football just to relieve. And so in terms of art, I think it plays a huge role because, one, it's close to the people. So when it comes to messaging, it's very easy because it's one thing about having 1-2 hours interviews talking about what the government is doing, but it's going to be easier if people maybe acted it out. If people maybe, and that's why you see the adverts, they use art Mama Nani, they use actors. They need to pass this message. Maybe these people, you know them, or maybe you know what they do in terms of, you might have heard of a song and you don't know who sang it, but it talks to you. So, and you look at what happened to Tanzania. All Tanzanian artists, the songs that you know, they politicized them, or rather they twisted them, and they are talking about Mama Samia, and it was beautiful because you know this song, you're like, what he did, they did that, oh mama, oh amefanya, akafanya, hata kama hajafanya wewe unaona tu amefanya, because they are people who you trust. So if used well, and that's why I keep insisting, art is a very strong tool towards ensuring we have justice and everything else. So I think it's crucial we hold it for what it is and not sell it for pennies, because I feel it's better if we use it for what it is. And it's a very strong tool, and that's why you'll find a lot of people will be using art to try and get to the people. Wacha msanii fulani akuja atuimbie, anakuja anaimba. Why? Is because they talk to you more than. So but instead of coming to introduce myself again, let him introduce me
through,
and then I'll come and lie to you, so your hearts will be softer.
Okay. Something that has come up with that whole idea of having arts is the cancel culture. And one of the people who was cancelled is your friend Butita for having used our taxes to fly to the US. How do we separate art, like understand that this person is doing something for the good, vis-a-vis us cancelling because Njugush decided to? Where do we put the line?
I think you can see through the whatever. Working with the government, I don't think it's a bad thing, because government is government. But working for a political alignment, that's where the problem is, because if you look at the guys who've been in government, civil servants, so to speak, they don't care which government is in, unless you're at a very sensitive docket. They don't care. Government is government. I work for government.
Yeah.
So as long as, and the government, like for example, if the government owes me money, I know even if the current people who are in charge go, the next government is going to pay my money. And that's what's happening now in the counties where there are arrears. People have not been paid for contracts they did for many years ago in the last regimes. But because it's government, there's a follow-up. Once you can be able to correlate, we did this is what we supplied, then you're paid. So I think it's not wrong. And that's why even towards the election, you see, even in other democracies, you see prolific people taking even sides. In more developed countries, you see people are taking sides. I'm with Hillary Clinton, I'm with, I don't know, Trump, and it goes. And there's no mad feeling about it. But now the problem is when you appear to be with and not reading the mood. Because now what happens is when the government decides it wants to be against the people, it claims it's for the people, but it's against the people. And the people are saying in capital letters, tunaumia. But you're like, A whole senator would go to somewhere in Embu. It was a barrio. And she told people you need to register for SHA. They told her haifanyi kazi. She said, na nyinyi, when you're sick, don't call me for harambes. What is that telling you? These are leaders. These are people who, during the campaigns, they begged and knelt for your vote. But now they're telling you, those kind of, they don't want to listen to you. So I think there's a very thin line. And it's a choice. It's you to choose, because ultimately it is important. And as we keep saying, there's a reason why we keep saying serikali saidia, serikali ingilie kati, serikali angalie mambo yetu. We keep saying if government will have done, like for example, if you ask me as a content creator, we need to be working very closely with the ministry that is concerned with art, with youth, with culture. Why? So that they get to understand what we need. Like, for example, we need a very big, you see, like, for example, Kasarani for football. So we need the same for other forms of arts. We need because now if I'm going to have an event, the last event I had 6,000 people. If I'm going to have an event, I cannot do more than 6,000. The biggest we have can do 6,500. because that means I'll have to create my own stage. I'll have to create my own whatever housing.
Yeah.
So that's a tent. It's very expensive. Seats, security. You know, when you have an indoor arena, security is made easier because there are walls. So you only need to put security kwa milango as opposed to it's open. So that's what, but they don't understand, because even someone who is posted there don't understand what the docket is all about. So then they'll be there for the ops and everything, michezo and for arts inasukumangwa katikati ya youth,
Sports
and arts, it's somewhere. So we don't even really know where we are. So as an artist, I think it's important to be able to deal with that particular department of the government. That's what I believe. But at the end of the day, we have personal issues. Like, for example, there are artists who've now been gone to parliament, and it's their personal whatever. They felt they need to lead the people, and so they did. So we have different reasons to work with the government. So, like, for example, if let me give you another example. If I'm to go to the US, and I'm going to something happened, and they're like, this is MTV, whatever, this is whatever, and we did someone from East Africa, preferably Kenya, and we have a name. It's gonna be easier for me to be able to talk to the Foreign Affairs Ministry to organize a letter to the embassy, say, there's this guy who's coming from Kenya, please grant him whatever. It's easier for me to get a visa that way.
Yeah.
As compared to I start presenting myself, show cause why you are going, do you have a family you are leaving behind, for how long you're going to go. The government is more likely to go through than, in the case with this Nduta, the Nduta lady for Madawas, Vietnam, yeah. The government came through. So it's not like government is an enemy. Government should be able to work for us. It's only that the government of that particular day chooses to be the enemy, chooses not to listen to people. And that's why people are in arms. Let me tell you, if we had a working government, you wouldn't have to pay people to welcome you. Oh, karibu. You're like, is uniform zilishonwa? And you want to tell us it's euphoria. You are seeing a lot of very fine, tall gentlemen in home clothes. They look like police officers. You know,
with very clean hair.
And we have mtandao. We are seeing you recruiting guys. Even I saw them repeating what they're going to be saying. When he says this, you say this. You get. So I think if we had a working, and when you go outside, I think that's when you get mad. You go to places like Dubai. They have their own issues there. The Emirates, they have their own issues, but they love their leader. When they're talking about their leader, they'll be like, why not for him and his father? They talk from a point of, they appreciate. Because the first thing, the how you got into that office is because people loved you. They were being told, no, wachane naye. Huyu ndio tunataka. They were like, he's been sent by God. So what changed? People loved you. So what changed? Let me tell you, if you were to do what you're supposed to do, no one would have a problem. You'd be like, huyo ni president. Have you ever seen a president who die and people cry? Because they're like, we've lost someone. I've seen an MP. We had an MP who, when he died, people cried. I just moved to Juja and I was like, why are people crying? Wakape, he was a nice guy. Kids could go to school and people cried because they know what he was doing. So government we should work with government because that's why we pay our taxes. They have your money. So niwe kwenda kusema, and a lot of times you're called and you're told, what do you want? So if, for example, mimi kama Njugush, I'm called capacity of art. So they want to know, jumnasema serikali is not doing enough. What should we do? I'll be there to say we need A, B, C, D. From last minute, I have a minute where we talked about the arena. We need something built. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but I have that. So if I'm to be asked, Nyi mnasema serikali haifanyi kazi. I'll say yes, because remember this time we had this meeting and ABCD, because that's how it should be.
How long ago was this? Out of curiosity.
It was 2 years, I think.
And we've not seen an arena come up.
Maybe it's coming up. I hear there's something coming up at Bomas. Maybe we'll see what it is. But my point is, government is not the enemy. Otherwise,
Should
why do you
never
go
be
for
an
the
enemy.
ID? Hey, you need the ID, you need the passport. All that is government. When we're talking about public health, public schools, all that is government. But should be working. So when it's not working, watu wanaleta shida.
True that. Do you feel like the government, from an artistic point of view, understands how the political space changed since June 25th,
No.
2024?
I think they're in denial.
How are they going to overcome
That's
this?
why you hear, nyinyi ni watu wa madawa. My father hatumii madawa, and he has shares the same sentiments. Because things, I don't know if they really understand. And I want to say this. I cannot wait for the IBC to be reconstituted, because we have a lot of by-elections on standby, and you'll see what's going to happen. Because I think that's the language they'll understand. Because right now they're still in denial, and that's why you are seeing all this ulabalu. Oh, I want to visit this region. It's a show of might. Tuko. Tuko. Nini tuko? Kwani wanadhani tunakuja? But when it comes to the rubber meeting the career, and things changed, and they feel it. That's why you hear your story. Like, for example, I don't know if I should be able to talk about that, but people lacking empathy when they should, because it's an African thing. When I'm at a loss, even if you're my enemy, you come and you're empathetic with me, but that's not happening. People are wishing these leaders, you hear of an accident and people are saying things, you're like, where did humanity go? They wish someone else was in that accident. That's wrong. But something changed. Until they see that. And that something is, if only you worked. That's the only thing.
But
And
why
listen
is
to
it
the
hard
people.
for politicians to understand? Kenyans, normally, we are very empathetic. Why would it make people happy that someone is dead? Like, if you sit and think about it.
I know, but I think they are not seeing. And another point, you see how they are not seeing it. Look at what I had Musalia saying. He's been in politics for a long time. I think that might not cut this time.
Also, the exact reason why you should go home.
That might not
In
cut
my opinion.
Kwanza yeye alikuwa minister akiwa 29.
So,
I think that might not cut being around, because things have changed. Hiyo around mingi walikuwa ni ile time mzee alikuwa. It was his way or the highway. But now, vitu zinabadilika kidogo. And I think in 2027 what we're going to be having is a lot of independent. Na wataboga watu.
they will, for sure.
Yeah.
Why is civic education so critical for everyone in our own spaces at this point?
I think because there are things still, there's a lot of ground to cover. You go to places and you're like, kai, kwani nyie hamjui kile kinaendelea? Wako sawa. Wanasema anaendelea poa. Then after hapo anakuambia nilipia hosi siwezi lipa. Sikuna huyo mtu iko sawa. Yeah. So there's a lot of civic education that needs to go around, because not everyone understands what their rights are, or they need the hard question that they need to ask. But until we do that, that's when we are going to have people who are supposed to be in government, people who are supposed to be in leadership roles. I was saying, when you go outside, that's when you realize what we're being shortchanged. Unaenda pale unasikia Dubai, if you get sick hakuna kulipa, education iko fiti. Look at what they are doing with what they have. Now they are getting into tourism because of realize mafuta yao haitaenda sana. It's working for them. The system is working. It's the safest city ever. Ukienda pale uibiwe, hapa sasa wenyewe ndio wanaiba. So I think civic, it's very important for people to be, because unless the people now are empowered, that's why kitambo never, before, I think last year, not a lot of people had the power to speak out. But I think after last year, now people will start to speak out and have started speaking out and asking for what is theirs without begging. Yeah.
And how will then people like in the art space come out in terms of civic education? Because, I mean, art is diverse, sports is diverse. Like, how do we use these spaces for civic education?
So I think it's taking advantage of the fact that we already have the platforms. We already have these artists. now is also having civic education to the artists as well, because not everyone understands. Like for example, when we had the finance bill, not everyone was understanding, and rightly so, because hiyo sio story yangu, mimi sijui mambo ya finance bill. But when talking about kunini diapers at ABCD, when talking about adding tax on easy camera, how does it affect my production and everything? So having a lot of civic education, first of all, to just for example, the way when we were having the referendum, there was civic education that went around before they got it to churches. They took the clergy to civic education, whatever. So they were taken, this what this means, this what this means. Some of them were in the commission that came up with that, and that is how people were informed. Wakakam, the clergy wakachukua position yao, watu wakachukua, people are like, this constitution because if this is what it means. And we had a lot of civic education again to the women groups, the men groups, the youth groups, and that's how it was worked. So this time around also, I think we also need a lot of civic education in different levels, because I remember for the finance bill, kuna wazazi walikuwa wanatarajia umwambie ni nini naendelea, and they'd act according to you and say, hey, kani hiyo ni mbaya. Yeah, so that really goes along, because a lot of times we don't raise up our voices because we don't understand ini nini inaendelea ama inanihusu aje. But once we understand that, so I think for art and civic education zikishikana, it's if it works for campaigns, then it should work for this now, for the truth. Campaigns being tutafanya, because someone will tell you tutafanya, but hiyo hata iko kwa docket yake, then baadaye
ukimuuliza
nilinyimwa pesa, niliwaambia nitafanya but nilinyimwa pesa.
Yeah. All right. The place of digital activism and politics, because of course you've been on the creative space, so you're on the digital space a lot, and you've seen the impact. What's the impact for the political scenario?
For digital
space and political activism, but on the digital, kitambo it was a baraza huko Kakamega. Sasa
I think it's saving a lot of time and covering more grounds. So you see a video today, you see another video, there are people who are like, why do we have podcasts if we cannot be able to break these things down? So it's really affecting, even in terms of how people think. You have to come correct if you're a politician. Kuna vitu hawezi sema juu watu wakipata. So and I think that is really working, because people know them now for who they are. Huyu anafikirianga hivi, huyu ako hivyo. If they started leaking their videos, and which I'm very soon nashuku they're going to start doing that. Juu anasema huyu aliniomba 10 billion, huyu atoe clip. Like it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing to bring out things to light which are hidden, have always been hidden. Hatujui watu wanakulaga pamoja. You see them laughing, then wakikuja hapa they are enemies. So I think if there's something that really nice that happened is having the digital penetration, what we're having right now in terms of the smartphones and the whatever, like I can be able to access news from wherever I am, in and out of the country. There is that, and also now there is the free speech in the constitution. So I think when we mix the two, I think we're gonna kill a lot of birds with one stone.
Another key organization or body in this country that has been very instrumental since independence and fight for democracy is the church. But along the way, it's like that church dipped. How do you think that will change? Of course, at least we've seen a change with the ACK and Catholic rejecting money and politicians deplatforming. But then we've seen a church where a pastor is very okay with getting 20 million, and yet the people who go there do not have shaft working.
I think an ideal situation is where the government works freely with the people, and people are easy, like I can go to any department that concerns whatever I need sorted, and I'm free to do that. But now when you think about doing that now, it's different. The same way, if the church was in good relationship with the government, it's the ideal. No one wants to fight. It's a lot of energy, by the way. You politician, it's a lot of energy to keeping the microphone. It's a lot of energy. Ideally, if they are good people, they should come and help them, because let's say, for example, we're talking about health. Who doesn't want their flock to be healthy? But sasa kuna mtagusano. So I think, I don't know, the church is a very, because matters of the heart, it's a very tricky situation, because first of all, this government largely would say church really came through for them. And that's why unakumbuka hata vile waliingia kulikuwa kunawekwa hema, they have tents, Sundays are for worshiping God. Sasa I don't know, like it was heavy, and they had pastors as wives. Oh, it was beautiful. Matters of the heart, the easiest way to get to the people, tumia kanisa. One, because of the sentimental whatever beliefs. Najua ukienda church, whatever the pastor says is what we'll do. Two, because churches, we are a religious country, and I'm talking about Christians. So a lot of us go to church, and even if you are the last thief, you are the worst person on earth, you go to church and you give your 10%, and you pray God to forgive you, for you to go back and do whatever you do, bad things you do throughout the week. But we are largely religious. So getting to the people, you need to use the church. As we said, you use art, tumia msanii. Usipopata mtu na msanii, use the church. And that's why when at home, when you have an I wanted to say insemination, when you have vaccination, it is through the churches that they announce there's going to be a vaccination at the Chiefs camp at ABCD, avail yourself. There's going to be an eye check at Chiefs camp, avail yourself. It's going to be in all PCA church, in all LACK. So it's an easier way of getting to the people. So these, of course, because these are human beings. So you have a church that is halfway done, you need it done. Someone comes and says, we have 20 million. So, yeah, 20 million, and then do your thing. You want your church imalizike. So what do? You just take the 20 million. You don't ask where that money comes from. You don't ask how much this person earns, where all that money is coming from. He's still building a lot of homes. You can't ask those questions. So you are personally there to, you're selfish. First of all, let's talk about church being used as a money maker. Even before we get to the religious issues. We've seen before churches where the pastors are doing fake, I call it magic. They're doing magic. Because they are not, what do we call them? The miracles. Magic for church is miracles. They're not miracles per se, but they're making money. Buy this oil at this much, this handkerchief, So it's a money making. So that's another avenue for making money for the church, as it is. Now come back to the religious matters. Is these politicians are so cunning. They'd come and say, unajua sasa sisi ni washirika wako, ukitupiga tutaenda wapi? And now, unfortunate for the reverend, all of them are there. Ni flock, wow. They are their members. So do you chase them away? What do you do with them? And that's how now you're seeing churches are coming to personal, because personal in the sense that this church will say, we're not going to be giving politicians microphones. And these politicians need to be asking themselves, why have they been denied microphones in church? So that's why I'm saying when we talk about it, we're not coming from a point of we want to fight. We are saying what everyone else is saying. Yeah, so the church is a very integral part. And the reason why is because we are very religious. Mimi ukiguza kanisa, umeniguza. Like everyone in this town, even those politicians know where they are because of their parents' prayers.
Yeah.
So church.
Is it where also artists don't create content that calls out the church even when they're wrong?
Again, it's a very thin, there's a very thin boundary between, when you talk about religion, it's a very thin, like I want to call out my church, but also it's a sticky situation. It's a very sticky situation, because who says this church is bad and this church is good? Who says this pastor is good because of A and this pastor is bad? Tutajipata maybe hata kumbe sisi wote anyway, that's not where I'm going. But what I'm saying is, for an artist to call out a church, they'd call them, and we've done that. You see a lot of videos being shared about a pastor who, I don't know, they are touching tongues, and you're like, yuck. But people have you've seen artists sharing those videos. They're like, India mnaita kanisa. So we know what is right and what is wrong, but now we say, you know what is right according to you. When you come to my church, we believe this is right. Tutakunywa majani chai nini. Kuna wengine, they don't take that. That is their right. This is my right. So there's a very thin line. But I think what should be able to make us informed is what is right, just as a human being, even because in terms of kuna watu wanasema nitapeana, but when you give, there's a verse in the Bible which says when you give, let this hand not know what this hand given, but they are saying we won't give if we don't announce. So why are you giving in the first place? Why? So you're giving for people to see.
Yeah.
And then, so there is and then that follows.
So
Not
that you can vote for me.
Yeah, not about God. Walisema kama hatupeana, they say in Meru, kama hatutatangaza hatutapeana. So they'll rather stay with the money. na kile church is realizing is, we've built these churches without these people. It's through the giving of the members. They don't have a lot. Mtu anakuja na kuku, inanunuliwa mara ya kwanza, mara ya tatu, they come with miwa, sugarcane, whatever they have. That little money is what have built those churches to where they are. Those same members are the one wamejitolea ikafika nusu. And those members will surely be the one to complete. If not them, their children will complete it. Instead of taking that. Juu sasa ukishachukua hiyo kwa mfuko ya mtu.
But why are we so comfortable with having very big, huge, artistic, architectural buildings for churches? I have no problem. But then our kids are learning under trees. In the same community though.
But, and again, that's not the work. It's not the work of the government to build churches. But it's the work of the government to ensure we have enough schools for children. Ni kama sasa ulize, why are we not, of which they are doing, why are we not treating enough patients as the church? It's not their primary role. Yes, they have hospitals, but it's not their primary role to ensure. Why don't we have enough roads and we have big churches? It's not up to church to make those roads. It's up to the government. Problem is, tunatoa, you are taxed. And then you're asking church, why are we having big churches? Mmejenga big churches as a church, but we have no schools. Ask your politicians.
Maybe that question comes
Do you
up
know
because
we have
the
bigger
money comes
homes
from
than the
these
churches?
politicians. Yes.
We have people with bigger homes.
But the homes are not from a political donation. The problem with the church is that 20 million for church.
Oh, you are talking from the Nini of...
From that perspective, yeah. I have no problem with churches.
I get what you mean.
If it's us members who build.
I get what you mean. So when it comes to now, these politicians doing that, and begs the question, every other time you're giving money, and that's the money that we know. Do you want to tell me, out of the 20 million, he only left 1,000 in his pocket? You give, if I have 10,000 and there's a harambe, I won't give 9. I'll give 2, 3. Someone else gives 1. So that when it comes together, it's a lot of money. So this 20 million, where it came from? There's a lot more. And true to those words, because other than the 100 million, he went to another church and gave 20. So there's much, much more. So tell me where this money is coming from. Again, tunasema, it's so, we are upside down. Because when you talk about, we want to renovate State House, it's beautiful. I want my State House to be beautiful. But in the same breath, you say, there's no lunch for the military. Like you really wonder. And then the same guys who are going to say they want to build the church for God. Who was building the church for God before they were in those positions? Let me ask a question. If they never got to those positions, who will be building churches? Tungekuwa tunaimbia nje. Anaweza Yesu.
Hata tukimbia nje kuna shida kweli.
In the rains. No, unajua wanafanya how wasipojenga. No one is going to build. But at what cost? Utajengea watu wenye wamekufa juu ni wagonjwa. Watoto hawasomi wako huko wanazeekea huko. Hawasomi lakini wanasifu Mungu kwa nyumba ambazo like doesn't make sense. Like sometimes unasikia like
kwa slippers ama belts.
Haitasaidia. Utanunua na nini?
Yeah, that's the problem.
So like it's sometimes maybe we are mad. You know, we could be millions mad. Maybe we are not okay. As a country, we are not okay, and a few people are okay. Because when we're talking about these things, hawaoni haiko sawa.
Maybe the eyes. The eyes.
The eyes, we evidently. Yeah, so as you said rightly so, I don't see why you should have very big churches and very funny schools, so to speak. Because they are funny, you go to school. And do you know, nowadays if you take your kid to a public school, people will be like, is everything okay? Atina somea Ruiru primary.
Ruiru
Academy. Ruiru Busy Bee, Jolly Bee Academy. That's where your kid should be going. Why? Compare that with high school. If you hear your kid at Komangu, Alliance, Nyeri Boys, you'll be like, hey, cool, man, Njiri. Wow. But it's not the same.
For the basic.
Exactly. When you go to uni, we have a lot of very good private unis. But you're like, ako UN, oh, walai, is in KU. Ay, Jaikwat, walai. Why don't we do the same with the kindergarten? Why don't we do the same with the primary school? Because that's where it all starts. Going upwards. We take care of this education so that we have this future we are talking about. Easy plans, mkonazo za miaka. Have you heard of the plans? The plans are for 6, 8. Wewe fanya plan ya 5.
We can't even do 1 year.
Wewe fanya plan ya 5, wewe bana. So far, anyway, but it's all good. Maybe again, maybe we are speaking from a place of ignorance. Maybe we on the other side would be like, oh, no wonder. Enyewe is possible. It's easier to give church 20 million. Enyewe, it's no wonder. Hii nini mulichange na 100 billion. Hii mfumo wa nini mkapeleka sha. Na bado kuna shida. It makes sense. I think on the other side it makes sense. Maybe we are speaking, and we are very sorry, maybe we are speaking from a place of ignorance.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. See, Jana, I saw there's an interview where he said, you wait until you become president so that you do what you want to do. So you will wait.
Do you want to become president by the Njugush at any point in your life?
The cow is being told by the grass is not producing milk as they had agreed. So they had agreed the cow will always eat this green grass. In return, it will give a lot of milk. But the cow is not giving the milk. Now the grass is asking, where is the milk? You promised. And we are giving you the grass. We are the grass. Where is the milk? Will this grass become the cow?
Yeah, I'm not speaking about now. Do you have political ambitions in future?
Even in future, this grass will never become a cow.
Never, ever.
Because all I want things to work. I want to be able to know if I'm not there, my family is taken care of in terms of education, in terms of health, in terms of whatever. My family, my mother, my father, when they need medical attention, it's gonna be there. That's all I need. We just need a working and that's
system.
all. Even for business people, they don't want a lot of things. No one wants handouts. Hakuna mtu anataka hiyo unga inapeanwa Nyandarua. All people want is an enabling environment. That's all. Yeah, so about being president,
Or MP. Ruiru. Juja.
Hapana, mimi ni nyasi. Wacha kwanza nyasi. Siku ile nyasi itakuwa ng'ombe, nitakuwa nini?
We are wait for that day. Because now satire will be turned on you, you know? Maybe it's easy to promise. Then when you get there
you say, ni ndio amkushika joke.
Me, it was a joke. Like, why did you take it so serious?
Yeah, but ultimately, I'm not saying this because I want to be in a particular whatever. All I'm saying is we just need things to be working. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all. Bottom line, that's all.
Very true. In 2022, we saw a lot of, quite a number of young people get into the leadership positions. What is your feeling about how the various, there are several, how they're performing?
Like, there's a way these things work. So, unless you have common mind, because also if you look at it from the outside, you'll be able to see there are some few elements you can pick out. You say, Uyu is a young person but he's sober. Uyu is a young person, he's sober. And now the problem is, once you become sober, you start being alienated from your political, because ours is a political party. Kama uendani na sisi, tunakunyorosha. Let me give an example with my good friend Jalas. Jalango, when he started working with the ruling party, he was an enemy. In his political party, he was an enemy. But now everyone in the other political party moved on to the broad-based. And now all of a sudden it's tukopoa sasa. Yeah? So you sort of uko peke yako until the older guys say, and there's a way things have always been done. So if things are going to change and according to how people want, right now, The people who are understanding what the people are saying are the young people. You understand what the people want. That's why it's very easy to be able to see who is for the people and not for the people from the outside. So if a young guy understands what the people are feeling, anasema watu wanasema hii si fiti. But the old guards ndio wanasema we've been in politics for a long time. So they have their way of doing things. So until we have our own way of doing things, people want things to work. Wanataka vitu ziwork. Like for example, ukienda kwa barabara unaona there's a barabara hapa chini expressway from UON coming to Westlands. Lane inaenda inaisha. People keep calling out, if kuwa hivi. Even if you're not an engineer, you know that is wrong. We will always do that. For young people, I think this generation, they are for speaking out. Mi sijisikii na hiyo. Haiwezi. So I think there are some few elements who are really doing a credible job, but in terms of numbers, we need more numbers to be able to upset the status quo. Because now what's happening, even if you looked at what was happening with let's say, for example, the impeachment, I don't say it should not have happened, but they didn't seem to be people who are independent-minded. They're like, okay, chama imesema. You ask them outside, they say, chama imesema, which is true. I understand how the chama works and everything. But in this chama, before even you come kukuja huku kupiga kura, in that chama, if you are a good number, you'll be able to raise those points. And maybe you'll be hard. But I think I'd encourage a lot of young people to take a shot. If you feel you have the leadership quality. Because what happens is, people are learned. Watu wameenda shule. But we still have the same people. There are a lot of people who do wonders out there. If you look at the corporate world with the Kenyans people, like for example, the other day I was looking at, there's a particular doctor in South Africa, he's a Kenyan, and they're working on the HIV dawas. You look at Kenyans, what they're doing outside there. It's crazy. In the World Bank, wherever. So we have beautiful mind. But when you come back home, look at our leaders. Kuna huyo senator mwenye alikuwa na nyeshana vidole. Those are our leaders. Ambao they need to sit down and they plan on behalf of those people who are working those multinationals in very big positions. Imagine unaletewa mtu, sisemi ni vibaya, anakalia board ya engineers. Hana hata certificate ya computer packages. Ni yeye anakalisha engineer. Unataka kuniambia engineer amefanya kazi for the last 30 years, anamwambia nini? So there is no much progress. Juu yeye anakuja na directions yake. I want us, but they're like, but X is equals to Y. Madam, Mama, Mr. Whoever. So, kuna kazi.
There's a lot of work.
Yeah, but if because we have qualified people, and the reason why people wanazusha is because we have very qualified people to do the job. We are not short of brains. We are not short of watu ni werevu. We are not short of, when someone says ate vijana wako kwa Airbnb na girlfriend and they abducted, the next time wanaachiliwa, like anyway,
Hata umejam. I understand.
Yeah, so I'd encourage if we have, and not only young people, but young and qualified people.
Yeah,
it will do us a very great deal. Like for example, if you look at the Senate, whatever goes on in the Senate, because they are fairly young, you'd get, if you look at even the committees in the Senate, wanakimbiza magavana sana tuambie, because wako sawa. When you're talking about constitution, wako sawa. We're talking about everything, wako poa, wako sawa. So they are able to articulate issues. Because, and the reason why I'm saying young, it's not because I'm against the age of anything. It's because there's a reason why every other job ikona nataka ukwe between this age and this age.
Do you believe in this idea of having institutional memory, in the sense that for us to have, let's say, a parliament, we need older people who know how things are run? Or are you for the idea, clean it, we build our own system?
Let's make it our own system. Because even you go to other countries, they do it different. Na hizo country bado zina run. You go to Europe, you look at their CSs, their ministers, they don't look like ministers. First of all, they don't have a motorcade following them. They look like they don't know their rights. But they are doing wonders. They are doing CS wa health wa Europe. He's taking in all African leaders. their system is able to take care of all African leaders. Awendagi hospitali hapa, they go outside, yet ile msafara wako nayo huko ni less kuliko hapa. Like who wants to kill you? You have
country.
6 police wenye hata ujui mali wanalala, wenye hata ujui kama wako na insurance, wanakukimbiza. Mmoja akianguka unaongezewa mwingine. You don't care. So all I'm saying is, if we are able to drain and maybe or keep, I don't believe in they know how it's always been done, because what has that done to us? We know what has always been done. I don't think, give people on merit. And this is the problem. Hatutaki merit. Even for the teachers letters zilikuwa zinapeana, it's not on merit. Nani amepiga kelele sana anapatiwa barua zake 20? Nani? Those on merit, they are languishing. That's why you meet an A material. Jamal score A. Why do we go to school then? Jamal score A. Upper class honors, but ana job yuko tu. It's because na ukiingia kwa wenye wako na ile job anafaa kuwa nayo, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. Yeah.
Hence why we have a messed up system.
Yep.
The other thing that is very important, as you have said, is having a lot of young people come out, especially for 2027 onwards. But again, we have seen, the young people also now cancelling other people who want to come up. Like, how do we deal with that crisis so that at the end of the day, we are working towards a better Kenya for all?
Okay.
Not me fighting Njugush because he wants to be MP.
I think is we need also kujita kamkutano. Otherwise, we'll come from a frying pan to the fire. And we end up waanze kusema mungeacha tu tukae wazee. So I think it should be, and with time I think it's nature will balance itself, where you have, yes, kuna older people, but more younger people are coming until we have a balance for the same. But I think when it comes to now the cancelling of we nataka kuwa kiongozi, we are leaderless, we nataka kuwa kiongozi, we'll need to have our own people who either we support or people who identify with our ideologies, because we could also have people wenye pia wako na mchezo wanataka kukulia. We've seen them. Anakuja kidogo kidogo unamuona kwa ndege. Unashinda kidogo kidogo mwingine nataka kidogo wanakunywa chai na huko ama wanakuja kutuambia vile wanamnyanyasa. Sasa nani alikutuma huko? So I think we should be very, just like any other dispensation where from even as back as college, even high school, some high schools where we choose our leaders, we have always chosen our leaders. We'll always know who stands for the right and for the wrong. They'll always stand out. But ideally haitawahi kosa hiyo. Yeah. Huyu anasimama, huyu si kiongozi, people will see the right through you. So wewe uza sera zako, because again it's a democracy. That's why there's something these people keep doing. They win. Might be legal or not, but that's what counts. That's what counts. So as a democracy, kura ndio inahesabia. Pale at the end of the day, that's where tutasema, and that's final. So nisitujua vile wanacheza hii game yao. So game yao wanaicheza aje? Kama ni kulinda kura zinalindwa aje? Because that's where kura ziupotea. Kura zi ati zinaanzaga kupotea ati zinaletwa staffing. Uganda ndio niliona wana staff live. Mtu akona hapa.
As you watch.
So we like as late as count hizo kura tuko hapo macho. But we'll need to either have our own or people who we identify who are for the cause, are for just, because that's all you need to do. We don't necessarily need young people to be at the top, but we need the right people at the top. Yeah. Whether old or young, but we need the right people.
True. All right, fantastic. Going African or Continental, who's your best leader currently serving, and why would you pinpoint them? Nice. I mean, it could be even in Kenya.
Ibrahim, maybe I think Burkina Faso, the guy is doing... Traore, yeah. The reason why I like the guy is because I like a paradigm shift where you're changing things. Like, for example, I used to love what Magufuli used to do. Like, we fanya tusikie huko, and for the better, change things. Because what happens is people come and conform to what has been going on. And this is what kills people. And this is what actually killing people with the current regime. they had a lot of hopes. You had a lot of hope in these people. And then from nowhere, they're like, kumbe ni the same too. Ni the same too. But paradigm shift where you're like, you're for the people. We don't need this cars. Like I dream of the Kenya one day. All the people who are involved in corruption will be in jail. No, not only in jail. Na hizo pesa zirudishwe. Like if we are to go for people with 6 billion iliibwa, how many hospitals? Come and build hospitals with that money. Kuja hapa, where are we talking? We're talking about education. Finya mtu atoe kitu. Then tuonage akifagia huku. Kwanza sasa inafanywa, naweza fanya content na watu vibaya sana. Naweza penda kuona mkuu fulani akifagia barabara ya Moi Avenue. Huyu alishikango aliiba pesa, so that you don't forget where you've come from. So for him, I think he's doing an amazing whatever. His style, it's radical, but I love it in the sense that, because that's what we need. We need a shift of how we've been working. Sio watu wanajiekelea mishahara, uko na watu 6 wanakufanyia kazi, nothing to show, ni pesa tu mnanyonya. People are languishing out there. So I think for him, I think he does it.
Interesting. He attracts a lot of African youth for that matter. Do you think we have any democratically elected leader who's close to what Traore is doing? And what does that say about Africa, actually, if you think about it?
I think our democracy also is democracy, because there's a lot that goes on when you talk about democracy, because you'll find a leader anapita na kura 98%, the rival akona 0.00%. You're like, hey. Then kidogo nasikia opponent aliuliwa, you don't know what happened. So I think that's why it's always a fight, because and the people who get through that, they do a change. Unfortunately, sijui kama hiyo kiti inakuwa tamu, because if you look at what Uganda, they also came through the struggle and then wako hapo. So I don't know which is better, the democracy one where we rewind, we go on and on until we get the right person. I don't know. Because now what will happen is someone else might be pushing to be in Ibrahim's position. So what will happen then? If there is a push and he's moved and another person comes, do we go back to the former whatever, or do we continue? So I think we as Africa, we have a long way to go. Beauty is we have baby steps. We are getting there. It's a thin line, but what to say, we are getting there. When you hear of rest his soul in peace, Mugabe ameondokea. So that's a different. Right now here they have a problem with their guy. I don't know what's going to happen, but with time I think we will mature. The fact that now we are talking about issues affecting us as Kenyan, it means we are headed somewhere. So I think we are headed somewhere, and I think people power, because you saw what was happening with Ibrahim. People are like, when he was going in the streets, they're like, hey, tuko sawa. It's people, they know what they want. People know what they want. So at the end of the day, the greatest thing in you is going to be people.
The people.
Yeah.
Reminder, chapter 1, sovereign power belongs to the people.
The people shall.
Now
the people may, but the people shall.
Very interesting. Do you think that's the possibility? I mean, that's of course he came in through a coup, and it happened in Mali, happened in Niger, so it's just the West African region. Is that like a problem that could face a lot of African countries? You're not an expert, yes, but from how you see the politics.
And it's very risky, because our military also the other day was getting into politics. But I think it's an eventuality, especially if it works on the other side. Because now what happens is, we've seen that route. There are some countries that it didn't work, where the forces took over power, it didn't work, and they're always fighting. We've seen that. But if we are to see people who are going to do that, military, whatever, gonna come and do that. Like, for example, you've seen what is happening in DRC. If we're able to see something as such happen and they actually go the right way, people will be like, huh. Because I think Mali tumefika, where we are as a world, I think nothing is impossible. If Trump is the president of the United States of America and he's doing whatever he's doing, Zelensky comes in, they ask him, "Kwani una suti?" Like, in what world? We are not used to that kind of world. So I think nothing is impossible. in the foreseeable future, because also we are a very different generation. Nothing, I don't think. Right now we are talking about people are going as emissaries to Southern Sudan, and they are like in a private whatever, tumetumwa, then they are sent back. Then the real AUC chairman sends. It's funny. It's funny. Sasa unashindwa alikuwa ameenda kufanya, anamshikisha handi. Na nilisema this guy atamshikisha handi, because now it looks bad. They're like, who was there? Oh, he was an opponent of the AUC chairman. But now the AUC chairman has sent someone else. So I don't know. So if it works for other people, well, might be, because people want what they want. We want change, that's what we'll get.
True.
And also I think military, I don't know, for some weird reason, the military a lot of times, well, more often than not, in some countries you'll find they are closer to the people because they are rarely with the people. Like, for example, you saw what happened during Maandamano. When the military came out, people were warmer to them. They were like, I don't know. But you feel, wako saidieni. So when they stand for the right thing, because also it's a very sticky situation when military takes over and sio mtu wako poa, that country goes back into ruins, and it goes back many years. Like, for example, there's some countries who will take a very long time before they recover from whatever that does, from whatever the military rule does, because military is their own government. And if I want to change the way things are, like, do you know this country could have changed when we had the 2 coups that almost happened, the one that almost happened, the one that almost happened. Maybe Kenya will be very different. Maybe it will be better or worse. You never know. But I think safe bet for me, I think, will be democracy, tusonge tu pole pole until we get, because we get the leaders we deserve.
That's usually a very painful thing to live with as a Kenyan.
Vidole, that's what we deserve.
We're Kenyans. We need to think if we deserve better moving forward. Are you pro-Ukraine or pro-Russian? And why?
I don't know. Why don't people have peace? Let's just have peace.
Do you think Trump will manage to sort the war?
No.
You don't think so?
I don't think he'll manage to. But let's see. Yeah, could be time will solve it. Time has a way of solving a lot of things. But when it comes to those guys, they have their own issues. We have our own issues.
So we deal with ours.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of issues, and we deal with a lot of those issues, and we forget. Like, for example, if something was happening the same time, like, for example, we had there was something that was happening in the Middle East, and we had our DRC Congo. There's something that was happening. People are not talking about the DRC. We're just talking, but how? It's a sad situation, and I sympathize with them. But at the same time, I think back at home we have a lot of homework to do. Because it pains me, Africa, we have everything. We have, when talk of raw materials, coffee berries come from the country, bought at a very low price. They go out, they are processed, they come back. You cannot even afford, you are the farmer, you cannot even afford a sachet. So, and we have everything. From talk of cotton, we're talking of wool, we're talking of gold, we're talking of cobalt, we're talking about a lot of things. But what happens? Why? We have oil. We have the best kind of climate, weather, if you are to stay in terms of planting and everything. You go to Dubai, they tell you you're so stupid. You have everything you need. Us, we only had oil. So you are like, anyway, we are stupid. Yeah,
you own it.
But maybe with time, I think we're gonna get it right.
Do you think the East African East Africa community, yes. Do you think these presidents are interested in peace in Congo, in the Congo DRC conflict?
I think everyone is. First of all, now remember these presidents are the same presidents back at home, so that should inform a lot of decisions in terms of how they make decisions. They are the same people. Hawajabadilika. Hawa anachagua huyu. Kumbe huyu ni incompetent. They are the same people. Maybe they mean well, but it only time will tell. On the other side, nasikia pia wanashikwa sana. It's the same person you want to nini peace. So I think, and also we have our own, they have their own private whatever. Like for example, when we were talking about the interest that a particular president was having, unasikia kuna mtu ako na shamba huko analima huko, so we have personal interest huko, not necessarily towards the peace of the place, but maybe you're taking sides. Again, people are taking sides, so again, time will tell. Yeah, but they are really trying. They by way of, they're showing their meeting, but like for example, now you remember the meetings they were having without Shikedi. They had, I think, 2 meetings. One was virtual. The other one, he didn't show up. He sent someone. What does that tell you about the peace, whether they want the peace to happen or not? On the other side, what is going on? Then Tshisekedi na Rwanda, Kagame. They met, wakamit huko Uarabuni. So a lot of things at play. Again, we have what we call this thing of your country and in another country. Diplomacy, yeah. We have a lot of diplomacy to play around with, because come on, the last few times Kenya tumeblanda. There was the very first time I think the government came into power, they didn't recognize us. They recognized a certain country, meaning they didn't recognize another country.
Sarau.
Exactly. There was a lot of other things going on. Abakakachima feelings. Yeah. So we have a lot of, then kama juzi unasikia story ya Sudan. So the president goes ahead and says, Sudan tuna supply majani chai hata kama gava imekataa. Southern Sudan imejibu ikasema hapana, hatutaki. So there is a lot of things, and everyone, kila mtu vuta kwake. So at the end of the day, they mean well, I think, but only time will tell.
Time will tell. Fantastic. I think this is a very good place to end this conversation. It's been such a fun, fulfilling. You've had a moment you've not had in a long while.
From point A to B, what is the cash crop of that area?
I almost asked you, what does South Sudan produce?
Southern Sudan?
Let's just test if you will.
They have oil.
Check. You're right.
Sindio?
Yes. Sudan.
But nini is very expensive. Nyanya.
Uko.
Life is expensive. You choose. There's a friend of mine who was there, and they were choosing kama wa miss lunch ama supper. Things are so expensive.
Yet they have oil money.
So it's like it's a curse.
Actually, do you feel like our resources as Africa add value to us? Because we have a lot.
No, they don't. And that's why I'm happy with Akina Ibrahim and what they are doing with kukazia hapana. Kwanza nyinyi tokeni, wazungu. Nyinyi tokeni, kwanza tujipange. Because we should be able, because now you find a lot of, you go to DRC with all the mines. Like you'd be surprised how many watu wa Congo own the mines. Ni walami, ndege inaingia inatoka. Inaingia inatoka na kitu. So they never benefit us. And I think that's it's sad really. Because there's a reason why God gave us all those things. We have beautiful weather, we have the beaches, we have lakes, we have rivers, we have everything. But people are dying because they don't have water.
We've gone to Congo, Sudan. Do you think we are benefiting as Kenya with what we have? A lot, for that matter.
As a country?
Yes, not on a personal interest, because personal interests, I mean...
Personally, I think as a country we stand to, and again that's why we are neighbors, so to speak. I think we sort of in the same region. I think we stand to gain, because when you're talking in terms of trade, when you're talking about, you hear there's a bank from Kenya that operates on the other side. You hear there's a business that has 6 branches. One is in South Sudan. So personally, as a country, we stand to gain. You see the kind of trailers that go on the other side via Uganda. There's a lot of that. So we gain from that. So if we were to have boundaries and never to work with them, tea goes on the other side. What are you telling now that farmer? Mwenye saa hii unaambia majani chai tutaongeza bei. Mutaongeza wapi na inapunguka? Huko hawachukui. Yeah, and then you see now other countries are strategically, like right now, if you have a miller around your home, Ruiru, we have a lot of millers wa unga, and you see a lot of TZ plates. What that tells you is TZ is producing more maize, or is producing maize and selling cheaper. But does that mean our farmers are not producing? Wakati wanapeleka kwa, they take to NCPB, and their maize is not picked, ama inanunuliwa vibaya. What does that tell you about our TZ? Yeah, so a lot of people are strategizing. Kama ni tourism, we are talking about Masai Mara. Do you know the amount of tourists that go to Serengeti? And the amount of branding that they've done. Magico Kenya ni waongoje ka event waweke kanini hapo. Sisemi ni mbaya, but people out there are working. They know hawa wazee wamelala. So tunazubazuba hivi unasikia TZ. The other day I heard the president congratulate the Tanzanian wale tupita na kitu. It's good. But what are we doing? You are the powerhouse, but soon hiyo kitu inaenda kututoka. See what is Rwanda is doing, visit Rwanda. People wanaenda huko. Like, it's so sad, like we can't, like, let me give you a good example. Rwanda are very big na the Air Rwanda. And kama unaenda Nigeria, you'll have to go to Rwanda before you enter Nigeria. It's amazing. Remember when our prezi was going to, before June 25, very beautiful trip to the US. Like I know every other African president would want to have such a trip. So he went, na KQ. What does that say about us as a country?
That he has good friends.
Who, sindio hao wanakuja sasa wanataka kunini. We, kwani ni mzuri aje upewe ndege?
Njugush, kama una marafiki wazuri sasa, makosa ni ya nani?
Hata mama yangu alikuwa ananiambia usikuje na kitu ya mtu huku juu. Alikupea kwa nini? Kwani wewe ni mzuri aje? Kama sweta si yako, wacha shule. Kama kalamu si yako, wachana nayo. As a country, we are capable of doing that. Aingie ndege aende. And you remember after your backlash, what they did? They went back to KQ. So as we stand to lose. And you see a lot of people marketing South Africa. Why? Mimi Mkenya nikitiwa gige South Africa nitaenda. I'll market South Africa. Niseme go to Tables Mountain. Why? What are we doing as a country? The other time, you remember, ilileta shida sana. Lupita Nyong'o akisukuma Serengeti, akisukuma TZ. Ati hakuji huku, mmemuita.
Mmemlipa.
Mmefika bei, lakini wa mabunge mtaonge. Like, it's so tukisileki, I think we stand to lose a lot, and once imeenda.
I think also just so we spoke to, he's called Karobia, it's the first minor Karobia, the EALA MP, and he was telling us actually Tanzania is way ahead of us even in terms of air utilization in even government spaces. For real? Yes, he was here like 2-3 weeks ago.
Kwa hivyo siropokwi?
So, he actually said we actually, I even used the Tanzanian airport, you self-check-in. You see there, you land here and unakimbia pale immigration. Wallahi, Tanzanians have a queue. Yes.
Iko na jina refu.
Yes.
It's Zanzibar, it's amazing. Unaingia unapishindo huku ni wapi? Sisi tuko tu. Sisi unaingia ni Chandarua.
So you see when Larry says
but ananyamazishwa. Wewe hupendi nchi yako, wewe unaendaga kwa wazungu. Bro,
Tanzania si wazungu. That was, I was like, wow. So us Kenyans are queuing here, but Tanzanians are just coming in and self-checking and
look at the stadiums. Na siongei hata juu ya hii regime. Naongea ile ingine.
Ile ilituambia Kamarini.
Yeah. Look at, sasa ndio tunafanya final touches. Tumalizie kuna tournament na come. Look at what TZ have. Look at what Mahoro, the Rwanda guys have. Like, Rwanda is a very small country. But look at what they are doing. Why can't we do the same? Why? Man.
Incompetence by design, perhaps.
Yeah, by design. Actually, it's by design.
Yeah, because, I mean, overall, we have everything we need.
You talk of investors who have gone to other countries. They come, they want to set up. Governor anasema nataka yangu. I know of an investor in Mombasa, in Kiambu, who came and wakaambiwa ile bido waliambiwa, and they go to Tanzania, they are welcomed. Karibuni. And they set up, watu hao wanapata kazi. So how does that make our leaders feel?
Shameless, perhaps? I don't know, I'm just saying. Sorry, that was not supposed to be true. Anyway, your closing remarks to, especially, of course, the leaders and especially the young people, because I feel we have a lot of power that we must harness by all means.
Let's just try to do the right thing. Like as human beings, let's just try to do the right thing. Otherwise, unaumiza watu. How does that make you feel? And as a country, I think we love, kama kuna watu wanapenda njiani wa Kenya. That's why when Harambee Stars is playing, kila mtu watawatch. That's why when mbio zinakimbiwa, tunaongojea gaza zile za, unajua sasa wanaanzaga na Olympics, they start with sijui kurusha nini. Si tunaongojea Kenya. When you see that ka uniform, this year wanakimbia na uniform gani, you are like, manze, you want a Kenyan to win. Sometimes tunasupportingi akina unaona kiprop kumbe ni wa Uganda.
Thinking it's ours.
Unataka tu
washinde. We sold one.
So so we want our Kenyans, unataka tu tukue fiti. So that's all everyone wants. Tunataka tu tukae fiti, and if we could come and talk to each other, tuache kurushiana maneno na kujipiga kifua. We talk to each other, tuseme tunataka hii ikuwe hivi, iko hivi, iko hivi. Hakuna mtu ako na shida. Let's talk
to the young people. My youth, hauna message ya youth man.
And if we can't talk to talk.
Wow.
For the youth, I think to go to rada and let's stand for what is right. That's all.
Stand for what is right. Fantastic. Njugush, thank you so much for coming through, man. It's been such an amazing... I am here to remind you of your classes so that you know your teacher was very important, right?
Nice.
Fantastic. For you who's been with us, I hope you've enjoyed yourself. 1, 2, I hope you learned something. And when you come here, just know we will have to remind you of all the subjects they took you through for a reason, yeah? Thank you for watching. We'll catch you on the next episodes.